So the next topic is like test design. Like we have discussed multiple times, the first role is like to do the test design. So even like as per STLC, software testing life cycle. So whenever the developer work on something, like we are going to do the test design. So test design is nothing but we are going to derive all possible scenarios. So either in an Excel sheet or in a BDD way. But now like everywhere they are using the BDD. Okay. So now let's discuss like how we can do the test design in the BDD as well as Excel sheet. Okay, so the test design is nothing but we are going to derive all possible scenarios. So those scenarios we call it as an test cases, or we can call it as an test scenario. So what are the things which you are deriving? So we call it as an test cases or test scenario. Now let's discuss like how we are going to do the test design in the BDD. So BDD is nothing but we call it as an behavior driven development. Okay, so when we do the test design in the BDD, like it will be easy to understand by everyone in a team. And also like we can use the same test design for the automation testing as well. Okay, so the BDD is like very simple. So the reason is like here we are going to use some special language called as a Gherkin. So Gherkin is nothing but so it's a plain English language. So where we are going to use certain keywords, and with the help of the keywords, like we are going to do the test design. So let's say like there are few keywords like given, when, then, and. So these are the Gherkin keywords which is available. With the help of these Gherkin keywords, like we are going to do the test design. So what is the need of the given statement? So the given statement is used to set the pre-request. Okay, so whenever there is a pre-request, we used to configure the pre-request to the given statement. So the when statement is used for configuring the user action, and whereas then is used for validation. Okay, so primarily, so whenever we are doing the test design, so we should do the validation. So the validation is important. So we are going to map the validation in the then statement. And whenever we are having the multiple user action or the multiple validation, so we are going to use the unstatement. So this is how like we are going to do the test design. So this is kind of an modern approach. Even like nowadays, whatever the test automation framework we have, so like it supports the BDD. So when BDD is involved, like everyone get to know so what we are trying to test. Okay, so it is like kind of an user friendly approach. Now let me give some example like how we can do the test design with the help of the BDD. Okay, so let me just open the Salesforce as an example. Okay, so assume that like you are going to derive the like all possible scenarios for this login page. So you are going to verify the login functionality. So in order to verify the login functionality, so like you need to write everything step by step. So what are the scenarios you can derive in the sense? So the first thing is like, so you can check the combination by providing the valid username and password, and you can ensure like whether you are able to log in successfully, which is nothing but you're just verifying the login functionality. And you are going to check in a negative way. So whenever you are injecting the invalid username and password, and we need to ensure like whether it is throwing the error message. And apart from that, like whatever the other possible scenarios we can test in the sense, we can verify the label name. So label name is nothing but this username, this password, we call it as a label name. So we can verify the label name. And then like we are having like forget password option. So we can verify like whether we are able to reset the forget password. So likewise, you can derive all possible scenarios. So these things we call it as an test cases. Okay, but we need to write this test cases in a BDD way. So how we are going to write in a BDD way in the sense, so these are like different test cases, or we can say it is often different test scenarios. So in BDD, like we are going to follow the structure. Like initially we should use the keyword called as an scenario. Okay, so where we need to specify so what we are going to test. So let's say like user validate the login functionality. Okay, so let's say like we are going to verify the login functionality. And second scenario, like what we are verifying, we are verifying the error message. So whenever like you are adding new scenarios, so we should use the keyword called as a scenario followed by the colon. I can mention so user verify the error message, or we can simply say error message validation. And third scenario, it is of an label name validation. Fourth scenario, so it is of like triggered password validation. Okay, and we have derived like 4 scenarios. And why we have derived 4 scenarios in the sense, in order to ensure whether this login page is like working as expected or not. So in order to ensure that we are deriving multiple scenarios, which means like we are like verifying the login feature. So as I told, in an agile we are going to deliver everything in a epic wise or in a feature wise. So this particular feature is a login feature. So whatever the scenarios you have derived for that particular feature, so you should map under a single feature. So that is the reason like we always use the keyword called as a feature, like we can say login page validation. Okay, so whatever the new scenarios which you are going to derive for this particular feature, so you should map under this feature. Okay, so now under this feature, like we have created like 4 scenarios. So likewise, whatever the scenarios you are going to add, so every time like we need to add the scenario keyword. But like how we are going to test this, so in order to test the scenario, so we need to mention the test steps. So how we need to perform the testing, or what are the steps we need to follow in the respective application. So in order to map the test steps, so like we are going to use the gherkin keywords like given, when, then, and. So initially let me write the given statement. Okay, so in given statement, no need of colon, etc. So like only for the feature and the scenario at the end, like we need to provide the colon. So here I'm going to write the given statement. It is like kind of a general English. So you can use as per your wish. You can write as per your wish. Okay. So when it is of an given statement, right, it is used to set the pre-request. So like what is the pre-request? So pre-request is nothing but so like here in order to test this, pre-request is like we need to navigate to this home page of the Salesforce. So I can say like user navigate to Salesforce login page. Okay, so now this prerequisite is done. So then after navigating to this particular page, like we need to enter the username and the password. So that is what we call it as an user action. So the user action we are going to specify with the help of the when keyword, like user enter the username and password. Okay, so now after entering the username and password, so the next step is like we need to click on the login button. Okay, so now how we are going to click the login button, even that is an user action. So whenever we are having the multiple user action or multiple validation, so we will be using the and keyword. So and, so user clicks the login button. Okay, then finally we are going to do the validation. So then statement, so like user verify whether he whether navigates to the home page, because like whenever we the login is success, it always navigate to the home page of the application. We can say so whether the user verify to the home page. And suppose that like you are planning to add one more validation. So let's say like you are going to verify the title as well. So if you see like whenever you are navigating to certain page, so there will be a title for each and every page. So even like if I click on the forget password, you could see the title has been changed. So if you need to validate the title as well, so then whenever there is a multiple validation, then you can use the and statement. Then you can say user validate the title. Okay, so in similar way for each and everything, so we are going to use this gherkin keywords, and even for the error message, like we are going to set the prerequest. So prerequest is nothing but we need to navigate to the like login page of the particular Salesforce, and then when statement it going to be remain same. Okay, we are going to enter the username and password, but the difference is like, so while testing the first scenario, we are going to use the valid username and valid password combination, but whereas for the second scenario, so like we are going to use the invalid username and the invalid password combination. So which is nothing but whenever we are injecting any input, which we call it as an test data. Okay, so we are going to use some different test data. So the advantage of BDD is like, even we can inject the test data directly in the respective scenarios. Okay, and how we are going to inject the test data in the sense by parameterizing the test data. So parameterization is nothing but like we can use the double quotes. The double quotes indicates the parameterization. Okay, here I can specify the username and password. So let's say, so the username is LMTI and the password is like ABC. And for valid username, sorry, for invalid username, so I can say the username is LearnMore and the password is like kind of an 123. So whatever the like test data we need, so we can inject the test data in the respective statement as well. Okay, so whatever the test data we require, we can parameterize the test data in the respective statement. And after injecting the test data, so again, like we need to click on the error message. So sorry, we need to click on the login button, and afterwards, like we need to verify the sorry. So after entering the username and the password, like we need to click on the login button, and which is an another user action. So that is why I'm using the and keyword, and post performing the login button. So we need to verify the error message. So user verify the error message, and even like you can parameterize the error message. Okay, so how you can parameter the error message in the sense only with the help of the double quotes. So like whenever we enter the username and password, so whatever the expected error message which is required, so they will be mentioning in the requirement document, which is nothing but in appropriate user story. So from the user story, so we can parameterize the respective error message as well. So by this way, like we can compare the expected and actual result. So whenever there is a mismatch in the expected and the actual result, so we can raise the default for the same. So like this, like we are going to derive like all possible scenarios. And where we are going to derive this all possible scenarios in the sense, so only inside the project management tool. So there are n number of project management tools available in the market. So in pretty much like mostly they will be using the Jira board or whatever the other project management tool they are going to use. So the process is going to be the same. So maybe the look and feel may be different, but everything going to be remain same. So we are going to map all the test design inside the Jira board. Okay. So basically when it is of an BDD, so like we should like derive all scenarios at the feature level. So whatever the scenarios we are deriving at the feature level, so we should map under the particular feature with the help of the scenario keyword, and post deriving the scenario, so we should like map the test. So we are going to map everything in a like feature level. Under the particular feature, like we are going to integrate all possible scenarios, and under each and every scenarios, we are going to map the test steps. So while writing this test step, So we should like write in a crystal clear way, because like in a team, like we are having multiple quality analysts, which is nothing but we are having the multiple testers. So they may refer our test design. So there is no rule like you may do the test design and you may execute some other test cases. But when someone execute your test scenario, so they should be able to understand so what you have written. So while you are writing something, so write in a crystal clear way. So derive in the flow and try to include all possible information in the test steps. Okay. And in tomorrow session, like we are going to see like how we are going to map this test design in the Jira board. So whatever the theoretical discussion which we have made, so in tomorrow session, like we are going to ensure like we are going to map everything in a Jira board. Suppose that like you will be getting the better relativity on the same.